Fish on Fridays. I'm McCauley, and today I'm going to talk about a relatively obscure saint, but she's important not just because of the lessons she gives us from her life and her death, but also this time of year. I'm filming this as we're knocking on the door to a new year, a new calendar year, and in fact, this episode will be released on New Year's Eve of 2021. So she's a timely saint to talk about as we get ready to celebrate the end of one year and the introduction of another calendar year. I'm talking about Saint Bibiana. She's going to die in the year 363, roughly. Now, let me back up a little bit and explain what's going on. We're in the Roman Empire in the 4th century, and in the early part of that century, a Roman emperor named Constantine is going to legalize and tolerate Christianity with something called the Edict of Milan, which was signed in the year 313. Basically, what this does in a nutshell is it stops about 250 plus years of sporadic persecution of Christians by the Roman authorities. So we have different emperors throughout that time span who had persecuted mercilessly Christians through punishment, through exile, through death. And Constantine's going to put a kibosh on that with the Edict of Milan. Now, some 50 years after his death, a guy's going to come into power who was a Christian himself, but then he turned his back on it. That's called apostasy, when you deny your faith. This emperor's name is Julian the Apostate, and he's only going to reign for a small period of time, right in the early 360s. But it's in that reign that he renews persecution against Christians, and he wants to make sure, because for 50 years they've been out in the open in public, celebrating and worshiping their God and Jesus, and so now they're easy to catch and to round up. And so what he does is he forces them to pay tribute to the Roman gods. And if they don't, of course, they're going to be killed. And Bibiana was a noblewoman. She was a Roman noblewoman who had accepted Christ and Christianity. And when it came for her time, she was arrested. She was asked to pay tribute to the Roman gods, to sacrifice to them. She refused. And so she was taken out, and to make an example for other women, she was stripped naked and she was scourged to death. They whipped her until she died. And so in iconography and paintings, you'll oftentimes see this very dramatic, either a dramatic display of her rejecting the Roman idols or her being whipped. And oftentimes she's shown holding the whip, the scourge. That was the implement of her torture and ultimately her death. Now, why am I bringing St. Bibiana up on New Year's Eve? Her feast day is December 2nd, by the way, so, a little while ago, but December 2nd is her feast day. But we bring her up on New Year's Eve because it's said that she was buried on one of the hills outside of Rome, and herbs and flowers started to grow around her grave. And these herbs were picked, and it was said that these herbs could cure headaches and seizures, so people with epilepsy would want them. But it also was said to cure hangovers. And so people would use it as a preventative medicine before they were going to go and imbibe. And so if you are somebody who does like to imbibe on New Year's Eve, as many do, unfortunately, perhaps we need to think about Saint Bibiana and pray to her, pray for her intercession, that we don't need her intercession, perhaps, if you know what I mean. So, but, it's interesting that the Catholic Church has patronage, a saintly patronages for so many things. And here's another one. She is the patron saint of those people who have hangovers. So if you want to avoid that when you're celebrating, maybe a quick prayer, a quick shout out to Saint Bibiana for the grace of God to work through her so that you don't feel the after effects of too much celebration. So I hope this has been fun and helpful. If you want to share it with somebody who maybe imbibes too much from time to time, that'd be great. We'd love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Glad either way that you tune in to Fish on Fridays. And until next time, be good to each other and God bless.